Good afternoon, everybody. Well, good to be down in Denmark this afternoon. It has been an extremely challenging weekend right across the state for hundreds of dedicated career and volunteer firefighters, but also state emergency services volunteers and other supporting agencies. These were some of the most ferocious fires that we've seen in Western Australia, and firefighters did a tremendous job to minimise the damage down in this region. Can I say our thoughts are with all those people who've lost homes or indeed sheds or property or animals over the past few days. The McGowan government stands ready to continue to support these communities that have been impacted by the fires. Our ground crews have been well supported by our aerial fleet, which was bolstered by a large air tanker from New South Wales, and we see today 36 firefighters come in from New South Wales to help with the fires across the state. The weather conditions will be milder today, but I want to emphasise that that there is still a real threat to lives and to communities and to homes. Now, I am asking the community to continue to heed the warnings from the emergency services, but also to exercise patience while they work to bring these very significant fires under control. The incidents combined have impacted more than 60,000 hectares, and currently we have more than 1,000 personnel in attendance combating or managing the fires. If I go to the fires individually, then the Bayview Rise of the Denmark fire, so that was downgraded to advice at 11:20 a.m. today, and certainly the rain has helped. The area burnt is now about 2,150 hectares. We have about 150 career and volunteer firefighters on the scene. Some came from the Great Southern, the lower southwest, from Perth, and the southwest also in attendance. There is a crew of about 40 out there assessing the area for safety, looking for overhead hazards, trees or poles before allowing residents back in. In relation to Bridgetown, that has been downgraded to a watch and act at 10:16 a.m. today. 140 career and volunteer firefighters have been fighting the fire, strengthening the containment line and mopping up. The area burned is about 2,250 hectares. The Department of Education has closed the Bridgetown Primary School and Bridgetown Senior High School. Catholic Education WA has advised that St Bridget's Catholic Primary School in Bridgetown will also be closed. In relation to the Shackleton fire, the fire is at emergency warning. It is not contained and it is not controlled. It has burned about 35,000 hectares at this stage. There have been another 70 career and volunteer firefighters from the Goldfields Midlands, Perth and the Upper Great Southern in attendance. The Department of Education has advised that the Corrigin District High School, Babacan Primary School, Condinin Primary School and Coolin District High School will remain closed for today. In relation to Narrogin is now a watch and act. 100 firefighters are at the scene. It has burned about 18,500 hectares. The Education Department has advised that the Condinin and Wickipen primary schools will also remain closed today. And we did have a state emergency coordination group meeting last night where a number of shires expressed frustrations with Telstra telecommunications blackouts, which I've raised with the federal government this morning. Can I thank all of those volunteers who have been involved over the past few days and are still fighting fires throughout the southwest of the state. I also want to thank residents for their patience and their continued patience as we recover from the events. We will have temperatures rise again later this week, so we do all need to remain vigilant. And with that, I'll hand over to the Commissioner, and we're happy to come back for questions a little bit later on.
Thanks, Minister. Can I just start by recognising the challenging weather conditions that the state faced over the weekend and the absolutely magnificent efforts of volunteer and career personnel alike in dealing with not only the 4 level 3 bushfires that we had occurring across the state from Friday through till last night, but also the many other bushfires that occurred and other incidents that occurred around the state at the same time. It's been an absolutely fantastic effort by all those crews out there, not only from DFES but from all the volunteer services, from DVCA and importantly the Department of Communities in terms of their support with the various evacuation centres that we've had to open up all the way from in Corrigin all the way down here to Denmark. It's been truly has been a fantastic effort by many of those government departments working together. I don't recall a time where we've had 4 level 3 bushfires occurring at the same time, as well as dealing with a state of emergency around a pandemic. So it's particularly challenging from a resourcing point of view, but I'm also equally particularly proud of the way the pre-planning that went in last week to make sure that the state was prepared for the difficult weather conditions we had. Additional large air tankers brought in, and of course the crews coming in from New South Wales tonight and get put to work today in an incident management team capacity. I'm also I'd like to talk about the damage report for Bridgetown, and I can tell you that the rapid damage assessment work that's been undertaken indicates that the following has been lost. There's been 1 house lost and 1 shed on private property. In relation to the Shire depot and the damage there's been 1 shed lost there and some equipment and a vehicle that was within that shed. Obviously the timber treaters business that's located in Hester there has been significantly damaged, up to 80-90% as I understand it. There's also been a number of sheds have been lost at the waste facility and transfer station operated in Bridgetown, and across the whole fire area there's been significant fencing damage as a result of the fire. So that is the rapid damage assessment report that's come out of the Bridgetown fire, and in terms of communication to residents and the like, in terms of which houses and sheds, that'll occur later on this afternoon. Rapid damage assessment has already commenced out at the fire at Shackleton and the one in Cabelling. We've had some reports overnight of impact to a significant piggery that's out there in Cabelling, and some initial indications of some sheds and the like out at Cabelling, but equally it's early days with that, and we would expect to see the rapid damage assessment occur over today and tomorrow and have a better understanding in the days ahead. Happy to take any questions. The rapid damage assessment has been completed here in Denmark, and as we've been reporting for the last couple of days, it hasn't changed. So 4 houses are lost and one damaged, and then 4 sort of outbuildings lost and one of those damaged. Communication to the residents has occurred this morning, and that's been completed.
For these fires, do we know if any of these fires have been deliberately lit at this stage?
No, I understand the Denmark fire, speaking to police yesterday, the Denmark fire is not being, has been determined to not be suspicious. In terms of the Bridgetown fire, I understand that the arson squad are in Bridgetown today, dealing with that one, and we probably haven't got to that point yet with the fire out at Bruce Rock or Shackleton and at Cabelling, so that'll play out over the coming days.
Still a lot of concern about the toxic material at the timber treaters as well. Is that going to be ongoing for a few days? What do you expect from that area? Yeah,
so we've evacuated the people out of Hester, and that is for their safety and primarily around their health. We are concerned about the wind blowing dust and ash from the burnt material that's in the yard there at timber treaters, and so to be cautious, we've moved the people out of there. In terms of the time frame for that, it's a bit difficult to say at this point. We are currently going through a number of treatment measures, so we might be able to do that. For instance, one of the strategies is to spray the area with bondcrete to be able to solidify all the dust and the ash to make sure that it's not blowing around, and then we have to check the various water sources. So at this point in time, I'm unable to give a point where we might open that back up again, but that's the situation as we've got now.
We had a lot of rain in this part of the area overnight. What impact did that have on both the Denmark and the Bridgetown fires?
Yeah, look, it's had a really good impact from our point of view on the Denmark fire and for the community as well. What I think we'll see with the rainfall is it'll just hasten up the process of opening back up for the community. There's some work to be done in the northeast section of the fire, which is really for Denmark is the only part of the fire that's currently not open, and that That involves walking the roads, checking all the trees along the sides of the roadways. We may have to cut some trees down if they're determined to be a danger in terms of that they could fall over. So that work's occurring this afternoon. I understand they're hoping to finish it this afternoon, but it may push into tomorrow.
And what about the Bridgetown fires and rain there overnight?
Yeah, so not quite as much rain there overnight, but equally that fire was downgraded earlier than the one down here at Denmark. So obviously a little bit smaller in terms of footprint, the fire up there as well. So I believe the fire up there is contained and controlled, and they're calling it that way. Really the main concern at Bridgetown now is that issue with the timber treaters plant at Hester.
Were the more northern towns left exposed due to the amount of resources that were sent down south, particularly with the aircraft?
Yeah. Were they left exposed? Is that the question? No. The large air tankers were used up at the fire at Shackleton and at the fire at Caballing, and you know, we had helicopters. The Black Hawks were up at Caballing. So that is normal business during the bushfire season, that we would move aircraft around. There's different capabilities between fixed wing and helicopters, and we move them around to suit the particular circumstances. I think it's also worth noting that at Shackleton yesterday, we couldn't operate the lats for a short period of time due to the strength of the wind and the dangers involved with that. So, just because we've got a bushfire somewhere doesn't always mean that it's safe for us to be able to use the aircraft.
There's been reports of a fire truck crashing in the Wheatbelt. Do you have any information on that at this stage?
Yeah, I understand there were two bushfire fighting vehicles that had an accident out at the fire at Corrigin, which is just adjacent to the fire at Shackleton, and we're working through that at the moment. An investigation will be done on that.
Were any firefighters caught up? Any injuries? Across any of the fires that you're aware of?
Look, I have been advised of a couple of minor burns at this stage. It's probably a little bit too early to get a complete picture of what may have occurred across all the four fires, but noting that, in terms of significant injury from fighting the fire, I'm not aware of any of that at the moment.
Do you have any updates on if there's power outages due to a few poles down and things like that in the area? Or?
Yeah, look, I can say with a certain amount of confidence there's a lot of poles down across the four fires. Certainly power's been an issue out through the Wheatbelt yesterday, and at the fires at Denmark and Bridgetown on Saturday. Western Power crews will be working through over the coming weeks to replace all those poles and get that power back up. As the Minister mentioned, we had a State Emergency Coordination Group last night, Western Power in attendance to that, and they were undertaking the planning yesterday to be able to get the crews back in there and get the power restored as quick as possible.
What are your biggest concerns over the next couple of days or next 24 hours, especially for firefighters or people travelling through these regions?
Yeah, so for firefighters, it's about managing their fatigue. We're going into another weather cycle again, Thursday, Friday, hot weather. Not quite as deep a trough as what we experienced on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so the weather conditions from a fire point of view won't be quite as bad. But equally, fires happen throughout the bushfire season, and most, I guess, of most concern is from a fire point of view is that we've got a lot of a large amount of area, 60,000 hectares, which has been impacted by fire, and so that's got a lot of fire edge around it. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and the next weather cycle to make sure that we're making these fires safe. And in the Denmark context, we don't want any outbreaks from fires that we've already dealt with.
These conditions, can you attribute any of the heat? Do you think the conditions are worsening because of climate change, or?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
Your opinion on climate change, and if you think it's worsening the fire conditions for your crews?
Yeah, look, I think certainly the climate is changing. We're seeing fires provide us with particularly difficult circumstances where they normally wouldn't have, and in that context, the Denmark fire doubled in size overnight on Friday night, and so for an area that's in the southern part of the state, generally gets really cool at night. It would be, I would say it's unusual that we would have those sorts of problems with a fire overnight in Denmark. And I think that's an indicator. We can look back to Wooroloo and the challenges we had last year, where we had a -5 dew point, a massive run of that fire all the day, half of Monday and into Monday night. Some 26 kilometres of that fire ran. So that activity of fire at night is becoming more prevalent, and equally the fires are becoming more intense. The fire out at Shackleton yesterday, very, very early on in the fire, rapid rates of spread, some 35 kilometres from one end of it to the other, that they were having to deal with out there all alight. It's particularly difficult circumstances, and I think people need to understand how challenging that is for the crews on the ground.
Yeah, this wind we were experiencing too. I mean, it's bloody windy standing out here, but do you have any figures of how strong it is and what issues that's causing?
Yeah, well, the use of the large air tankers out at Shackleton yesterday, they were getting wind strengths up to 85 kilometres an hour, which means the large air tankers couldn't operate, and so that affects our ability to respond and put out these fires, and it's an indicator of there's a whole range of different ways that we deal with bushfire. It's people on the ground, it's helicopters, it's planes, it's mitigation that occurs prior to fires. So all of those things make up the response effort to bushfire and keeping the fires as small as we can.
Is there any update on the resident who was injured whilst defending their property?
No, I don't. At Bridgetown you're talking about? No, I don't have any update on that.
From a control and resources point of view, just how challenging was the weekend with, like you said, 4 high-level bushfires, vastly spread out? Yeah,
it certainly. I think it's fair to say there were some resourcing challenges, particularly as we got into yesterday around about lunchtime when we had those fires that really began to escalate out at Shackleton and Narrogin, east of Narrogin. But there are also a number of other fires that were kicking off in the Wheatbelt at the same time that we had those difficult conditions. So, we needed to mobilise people to that, not only firefighters in fire trucks, but also incident management team personnel, which is so important to make sure we're managing the safety of the firefighters on the ground, but importantly supporting the local community. So we've got level 3 incident management team out at Bruce Rock. We've got another one set up at the fire at Caballing, and they had to be put out there on top of what we were already doing at Denmark and Bridgetown. So certainly some challenges. We get faced with this from time to time during the bushfire season, and we move personnel around the state to suit, and we'd already had the incident management team on standby to come over from New South Wales. So, I felt that we were well prepared for what was going to get thrown at us. We knew it was going to be a difficult weekend, and I'm just so proud of the way that everybody responded to it.
And in the Wheatbelt especially, reports of a lot of farmers and people in the local community jumping in a truck or a ute with a firefighting unit and just doing what they can in those parts, given the adversity they're facing. Yeah, look, it's a great part of bushfire fighting in Western Australia is the effort that the local effort that goes into combating these fires, and saw that yesterday out at Shackleton and out at Narrogin, but equally at Denmark and in Bridgetown. It is it's an important part of the response effort, that local farmer response effort, that local knowledge, understanding of where everything is, where the wind comes from, what it does in those local areas is really valuable.
Is there a time frame of when we might hear the number of property loss in the fires the Wheatbelt?
Look, I'd like to think we'd be in a position probably late tomorrow. I think would be a spot. I'll be going to Bruce Rock and Corrigin and hopefully Narrogin tomorrow to speak to local governments and the personnel out there, and I'll have a better understanding then.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.